Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Void Bros podcast. We had a plan to do cryptids today, but I decided to switch it up, and we're going to do cryptids next week because we have a special episode for our 10th episode coming up here soon. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about war crimes, specifically during the World War II era. We're going to tell you a quick little, some longer than others, but we're going to tell some stories of war crimes that happened during World War II. Well,
take us into the void. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope you're ready for, if you thought David Parker was bad with all the stuff he did, these scientists, and all the experiments done.
You never took us into the void.
Well, we're going into the void right now. Let him
get there.
Build it up.
Oh, are you building up to it? Oh, my gosh.
Let him finish.
You keep looking at me. I feel like you want me to say something. I was like, he hasn't brought us into
Well, no, because I know how much you didn't like David Parker.
Oh, no. I'm fine with brutality. Just, it was the rape.
Well, if you thought that was bad, just wait till you hear some of these experiments done by scientists.
Experiments are a whole other thing.
It wasn't just experiments. Let's jump into the void here of some brutal, and very graphic war crimes.
Now we're in the void.
How's everyone doing?
That's what I was waiting.
We're floating right now in the void.
Boy, am I ever.
Getting ready to learn. Because I guarantee not a lot of people know about some of this stuff that we're going to talk about today. Especially our first topic here that we're going to talk about.
What is our first topic that we're going to talk about?
Well, you're not going to tell me how your day was?
It was a day. It was right.
Greg?
No one cares about Greg.
I got killed.
You had a rough day at work.
Considerably.
He had it coming.
You got a little bent over, it's okay. It happens. Happens to the best of us.
No, Nick said I got bent over. I told him I got flipped upside down.
A little rougher than what I thought.
I made a bet with Nick, and now he owes me chocolate milk tomorrow.
Oh, yeah? He's got his half gallon now. Or quart.
I think we've got Mason into a little gambling addiction over here.
It all started with a game of fucking
Ship Captain Crew.
Mason's stupid coins, stupid quarters.
Mason will bet you anything.
You're gonna get him addicted to betting and gambling, and now when basketball season comes around, he's just gonna fucking put wagers on.
I didn't do that shit.
Put wagers on everything.
But you were there.
I was there.
You peer pressured him.
You did.
And then on top of that, he's getting paid in chocolate milk.
You ready for our first topic today?
Yeah. Let's do it.
So, have any of you guys ever heard of Unit 731?
No.
Cannot say I have.
So, Unit 731 is known for many names, but for the prisoners there, they pretty much called it the Asian Auschwitz.
So, is this pretty much a Japanese concentration camp, essentially?
Pretty much. Mainly some of the prisoners in Unit 731 were Chinese POWs, some Russians, some Americans. But its official name was the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of Kwatan Army. This was formed before World War II began, or at least, the U.S. didn't officially know of it until closer to the end of World War II. It came out sometime in the mid-1930s of Japan and China when they were at war. A conflict that eventually morphed into World War II, War in the Pacific Theater, which is a big event. Also kind of resembles a war crime that the U.S. did too. More stuff that, gotta love World War II. That was another brutal war that we went through.
So they disguised themselves as a water treatment?
Yep.
People?
Yep.
That's so fucking smart.
Here to take care of your water.
So the units in charge was really clear from the beginning for what their goals were. They began testing, producing, and storing biological weapons, and they also such activities like this were outlawed by at least 2 international treaties at the time through Japan. Japan just didn't give a fuck about these treaties at all. They really didn't. From the start of Unit 731 under General Shaul, I'm not even going to pronounce his last name, you know. We always got to put in those hard names I can't ever pronounce, and I can't find any punctuation guides on how to pronounce their names.
Shiro Ishii.
Ishii, we'll call him that.
Ishii.
So
Itchy
among,
bottom. Got him there.
Yep. So among the thousands of experiments conducted on prisoners, I'll just read a little bit of them before I go into real detail about it. So they got vivisection. You know what vivisection is?
Like a vasectomy?
Nope. Vivisection is surgery performed on a person without anesthesia, and they're wide awake.
Oh.
So they can feel everything.
It happens to me at the dentist. They don't numb me enough, and then I'm like, or they numb me, but then it kind of like wears off halfway through, and then it's like, I'm sure they're almost done. So then I don't say anything, and they're not almost done. And it hurts.
It hurts, yeah. Well, just think about like, I'll explain more about it. There's a lot of vivisection that goes on in this unit, because they use injections of viral diseases to examine their spread. They also have amputation, the study of blood loss, removal of other body parts and organs, starvation, deliberated exposure to freezing temperatures to examine effects of frostbite. To me, that's one of the more brutal ones. There's another one. I forgot my fucking damn note thing out in the car, but luckily I remembered.
It's like, I'm not by any means saying like this is good at all, but I mean, if you want to learn more about the human body, I suppose prisoners of war would kind of be the way to go if you were in a war. So still don't agree with it, but
you might
kind of see where they were coming from a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't do this shit, but
just wait till I get into the experiments and into
what are you gonna do it on your friend?
Just start doing stuff, see what works.
Just wait till I get in depth on these experiments, and then tell me at the end of it before we go into
I'm sure it's going to be fucking awful, but like I said, like it's better than doing it on your friends.
Well, they also did it to their soldiers too, before the prisoners of war.
Scratch that. Yeah.
So their first experiment,
like Captain America, well, Captain Japan. I don't fucking know, man.
Japan.
Well, their first experiment. I'm gonna go into some experiments that they did. The first one I have put down is the frostbite experiment. So much of northern China experiences brutally cold winters, and many soldiers are lost in the way of battle without a shot being fired due to the cold. You know.
Yeah.
Under the pretense of examining the effects of frostbite on the human body, prisoners were either placed in a freezer inside of Unit 731 that could be set to 50 degrees Fahrenheit or below zero. Or they could simply be marched outside into the bitter cold and had water splash on them until their limbs froze. So they would take these prisoners out to the freezing cold temperatures, tie them to a pole, and splash water on them until their limbs freeze.
I've never been in negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
That sounds pretty cold. You know what I've never understood?
It's wicked fucking cold.
If
it's cold right now.
If you're measuring temperature, why wouldn't zero be when it's just like nice and it feels good? It's not hot, not cold. It's just nice and even. It doesn't really feel like anything, either one way or the other. Why isn't that zero? Why is zero fucking cold?
I'm with Mason here. That shit don't make sense. I've never really thought about it, but Mason's right.
It's the way back in that day, thermometers were made out of mercury. So mercury at the time had different, heating levels and cooling levels. Before they
I say we rally for a change.
I don't know what's in thermometers nowadays, but I know it's really, really rare to find mercury because mercury is really poisonous to us. But back to the story here.
Lead.
So,
Lead.
Lead.
I'm thinking of pencils.
It's graphite.
Back in my day.
I thought he was talking about lead paint.
Tell me about back in your day, Mason. I gotta fucking know this.
So, according to one officer, they were able to tell that the frostbite had set into the limb if the frozen arms, when struck by a short stick, emitted the sound resembling that which a board gives when struck.
Did they ever hit like any big scientific breakthroughs with any of these at all, or was it basically shit that was already known that they were? Was this just a form of torture, or was this like another form of sick fucking science, or what?
There's a lot of like beginning of Unit 30 or 731. They were truly trying to test a whole bunch of stuff to perfect their army to make them win the war.
Yeah.
Well, this is like towards the end of it, to where they just started fucking torturing people. So that like science experiments and like true tests just turned into
gruesome murder
and torture. Yeah. So if the limbs weren't frozen straight off their body, prisoners were often marched back inside and thawed out, either by immersion in hot water, exposing them to a nearby fire, or simply letting them eventually warm their limbs up themselves. Here's where it gets weird. So if the water was too hot, sometimes their flesh would get stripped right off their bone.
Gross.
As a result of this endless torture, physicians concluded that the best way to thaw out limbs using water between 100 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
And that made it not rip off the limb?
Yeah. I guess they did find some results, but how many, there's probably a lot of people that just died from it. A lot of people in this camp, it basically turned into a concentration camp of, Chinese prisoners mainly. And a lot of them suffered through hypothermia. The frostbite testing was a common thing throughout it.
I just think of like paper mache and water, and it just falling apart.
Very much. It's kind of like gross to think, like you're like they would like do it till like ice formed on their arm from being out in their cold. Imagine how like brittle your fucking arm is, especially like when they just talked about like having like hot water hot enough for the bone.
That is fucking wild. You never really think of that as like a form of torture. I mean, it definitely can be.
Well,
you just proved that.
It only kind of it gets worse. But I mean,
you just like to say that.
Well, to me, I like frostbite, dude. That's gotta suck. This next one, Vivisection, this one's even worse, in my opinion. Like that.
I think what makes it worse is like the one that they get the least amount of scientific information from. Like in my brain, like how it's registering right now. It's like anything they get the least amount of like scientific leads and all that. Like at that point, there's no fucking gain at all. You're just torturing people.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they did.
I mean, it is just outright torturing. But if they're figuring out other information, at least as bad as they died with a purpose, at least they died for some kind of scientific gain. They didn't just die just to fucking die.
Well, the next one that did is called Vivisection. So Unit 731 started out their research unit investigating the effects of various diseases or injuries on the fighting ability of an armed forces. One element of the unit, called Murata, took this research a little further than usual bonds of medical ethics by observing injuries and the course of disease on living patients. At first, these patients would volunteer from ranks of army, but as the experiments reached the limits of what they could be non-invasively observed, and the supply of the volunteers dried up, the unit turned to the study of Chinese prisoners of war and civilian prisoners.
Why the fuck? I mean, yeah, it's going to dry up. They're figuring out that everyone who's going out here and doing this shit's probably dying.
So, as the concept of the consent went out the window, so did the restraint of the researchers. It was around this time that Unit 731 began referring to the confined research subjects as logs in Japanese.
Just call everyone a log.
Yep. Study methods in this experiments were pretty barbaric. Vivisection, for example, is the practice of mutilating human bodies without anesthesia, the study of the operations of living systems. Thousands of men and women, mostly Chinese communist prisoners, as well as children and elderly farmers were infected with diseases such as cholera and the plague, then had their organs removed and examined before they died in order to study the effects of disease without the decomposure that occurs after death.
I mean, it's fucking brutal, but it makes sense on why they did what they did. But I mean, yeah, it's still. You think they could have at least used anesthesia or something if you're gonna fucking do that to someone. But I mean, if you're gonna kill them anyways, I don't know. Maybe they were just like, fuck the anesthesia. That's just something else they had to get in a time of war.
Well, I can tell you that the subjects had their limbs amputated and reattached to the other side of the body, while others had their limbs crushed or frozen and had the circulation cut off to observe the progress of gangrene.
So what about that whole thing of sticking somebody's arm on the other side? Like, the fuck are you gaining from that?
I don't know. No fucking clue what.
Like,
what
all these
that
other
is
ones have
gonna
been
do.
pretty scientific, but that makes absolutely no fucking sense. The arm's just gonna fucking hang there.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any possible way that arm operates?
Nope.
At all? There's no fucking way.
And not unless you connect like certain nerves and muscles and all that to it.
What if they did all that?
I don't think they did. I think they just did it and be like, look, this fucker with two arms on one side. They're pretty fucking sick. Just wait, it gets a lot worse. I don't think did you even read the doc at all prior to this?
No.
No, well, you're in for a treat.
I like being surprised.
Well, yeah, surprise is what you're gonna be. So,
That's what you're gonna be.
finally, when a prisoner's body was all used up, they would typically either be shot or killed by lethal injection, though some may have even been buried alive.
My guess is different per doctor.
Yeah. So none of the Chinese, Mongolian, Korean, or Russian prisoners assigned to Unit 731 survived their confinement there.
It's a lot of dead people.
How big is the number?
I think it was like well over 4,000 or something like that, maybe more.
I don't know if it's necessarily a lot of people. I mean,
because it was really fucked up, and I'll talk about it later. That all the at least I think I'll talk about it later.
It's a lot of people tortured though.
All the scientists and all that, they just got set free into the fucking world. They didn't get charged or anything. They just fucking walked free. But I think I have that later in there. So here's another gruesome one. Weapon testing. The effectiveness of various weapons was obviously an interest in the Japanese army. To determine the effectiveness, the Unit 731 herded prisoners together on a firing range and blasted them from various ranges with multiple Japanese weapons, such as the Numbe, 8mm pistol, bolt-action rifles, machine guns, and grenades. Wounded patients and participants' deaths were compared on the bodies of the dead and dying inmates.
Why were they studying wound patterns? I guess to see how accurate it was, or
pretty much
if it was something explosive, like exactly how much damage it was doing or how much shrapnel you'd get hit by.
Especially when it comes to like the grenades and like kind of bigger bombs. What they would do is that they would take different prisoners and attach them to like wooden crosses or poles in various circles in different meters to experiment the blast radius of certain bombs.
It's a good way to learn.
I'm gonna guess none of them.
But here's the thing: they had helmets, and then they had a little metal plate that hung above their chest. So they didn't want to kill them; they just wanted to study the range and shrapnels. They didn't really give.
Did you hear that, Mason? Wearing a helmet and a chest plate will keep you from dying.
It didn't protect their arms or legs or anything. It just kept their
just in the chest. Yeah, that's the important stuff.
Yeah.
I doubt it even protected their whole head. Like, what kind of helmet could it have been? A fucking construction helmet? The fuck's that gonna
be? Just out there with a hard hat?
Yeah, you're just gonna
versus a grenade?
Yeah, it's gonna decimate you, no matter what.
So,
a thin piece of sheet metal over your chest?
No, it probably was. I don't think it probably was that thick. But I just remember reading that, where they were, like, hung up in crosses and circles and different meters away from the bomb.
Torturing people, doing surgeries with no anesthesia. You're fucking intentionally giving people frostbite. But then for a blast radius, you're going to give a guy a fucking helmet and a chest plate to save his life.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's not also what was tested during weapon testing. Bayonets, sword, and knives were also in the study. Um, through the prisoners, they would usually bond for these tests. Flamethrowers were also tested on both covered and exposed skin. And additional gas chambers were set up in the unit's facilities to test subjects' exposure to nerve gas and blister agents.
How much poison is too much poison?
The amount that kills you is too much.
Well, that's what they're figuring out. You're welcome.
Hey, thanks for deducing that for us.
Just when you thought those were the only weapons tested.
So I want to talk to you guys real quick about this.
All right.
This shit cracked me up earlier. So Joey and I were walking back upstairs from break. This motherfucker looks at me and says, "Which one of us you think is going to die first?" And I'm like, "I don't fucking know. What's that even mean?" He's like, "I drink a bunch of Red Bulls and you smoke cigarettes." And I'm like, "It's obvious who's going to die first. You." And he's like, "No way." He's like, I can stop drinking Red Bull. You can't stop smoking cigarettes." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you have like 1,000 a day. Like, it's going to be hard for you to stop." And
What's harder to stop?
I know it'll be
a
hard to
caffeine
stop.
addiction or a cigarette addiction?
I feel like I don't know.
Caffeine.
And he's got a
There's
good,
a lot of caffeine.
He's got a
everywhere.
good year and a half on me. I think that year and a half will make all the
Like,
difference.
I can't drink energy drinks because my heart rate goes up really bad.
I don't drink them anymore because one time I was drinking Red Bull all day and then I decided to get smashed drunk and that was a bad idea.
I get like really shaky when I drink energy drinks. Like it's too much. Like I can have like small drinks, but I can't like drink like a whole can of like Monster or anything anymore.
That was the weirdest like little blackout thing I ever had. Like I don't think I've like drank but like maybe 2 Red Bulls since. I swear, like when I closed my eyes, I could see like black and red, and it looked like there was just like I don't know, looked like fucking hell. I don't know. I thought I was like,
You could smell colors.
dude, I was in a whole nother fucking universe, man. Like I can't even explain it. It's
So people should use caffeine as a weapon, as a torture device.
yeah, if you get them shit faced drunk.
Well, you ready to hear what other stuff they tested on during the weapon testing?
Please tell.
So heavy objects were dropped onto bonded prisoners to study crushing injuries. Subjects were locked up and deprived of food and water to learn how long humans could survive without them. And victims were allowed to drink only seawater or were given injections of mismatched human or animal blood to study the transfusions and the clotting process.
I just think of a piano falling on somebody. That or a cinder block. Those are the only 2 things that I instantly thought about.
Well, I guess I did have that part in there. So that note that I made earlier was just
I had like not even a second of a thought, but like I was thinking, I was like, these motherfuckers could have just looked this shit up on the internet, and then like I said, it wasn't even a second of a thought, and I was like, oh shit, there was no internet. Never mind. I'll say that.
Also during weapon testing. Meanwhile, prolonged X-ray exposure sterilized and killed thousands of research participants, as well as inflicting horrible burns, and then emitting plates were miscalibrated or held too close to subjects, nipples, genitals, or faces,
So they're fucking up their nipples.
and burning the dick and balls.
That's how salami nips start.
So these are all men.
Yeah, female.
You said they were burning the dick and balls.
Well, just genitals. We're all men here, so I wasn't really thinking about burning a pussy.
That's what you should have thought of first.
Yeah, maybe.
His mind went straight to
This was
balls.
Arby's. This was Arby's before Arby's. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, just wait, because it gets way worse when it comes to that reference.
That's
If
fucking
you
disgusting.
thought roast beef was bad, just wait. Because there's some pretty graphic stuff coming up after this one. So, then, and to study the effects of high G forces on pilots and falling paratroopers, Unit 731 personnel loaded human beings into a large sarcophagus and then spun them at higher and higher rates of speed until they lost consciousness or died, which usually happened around 10 to 15 Gs, though younger children showed a lower tolerance to the accelerant forces.
That took a dark turn.
while we're talking about the weapon testing, they also studied the exposure of compression.
On children.
Men, women, yeah. So they put them into like a chamber and then vacuum seal the shit out of it until their eyeballs popped out of their head.
I imagine that's how they figured out how young children showed a lower tolerance for acceleration forces.
Yep. All these tests were tests on men, females, children, even infants, like fresh out of the fucking womb infants.
You never know who you're going to war against. Got to be ready for all scenarios.
Yeah, these people just don't give a fuck, huh?
This is Japan, right?
Yeah, this is Japan. So here's where things start taking more of a grosser and maybe a little more violent than...
More violent than this kid getting pancaked?
Oh, yeah. So this is the syphilis experiment.
I read the fucking name. It's like right before you said it. I was like, did I say syphilis? And I heard you say syphilis. And I was like, oh, my goddamn, dude.
I thought you were laughing at the next topic.
Was it gonorrhea?
No, you'll see it.
You'll see it because you thought syphilis was bad. Well, it only gets worse from
No,
there.
I thought syphilis was funny.
Let's get the syphilis first.
STD jokes, man.
So, Unit 731 members were orchestrated forced sex acts between infected and non-infected prisoners to transmit the disease. As the infection of the viral disease by ejection was abandoned, and the researchers started forcing the prisoners into sexual acts with each other. Anyone of the male or female was affected, and the sexual act was done in front of 4 or 5 unit members, whom were all dressed from top to bottom with like a white, hazmat suit, but only their eyes and mouth were visible. It was made clear that anyone who did not cooperate or resist would be shot. After the victims were infected, vivisection took place so they could study the effect of the disease on the body's organs. Genitals of the infected female prisoner with syphilis were called jam-filled buns by the guards.
That's fucking gross.
Jam-filled buns.
I guess, they said if they resist, they'd be shot.
Yep.
To death?
Yeah. Or like a warning shot, like, hey, do what we say.
Are they going to shoot you in the fucking foot? I don't know.
I don't
want to get shot.
They're going to kill you.
Well, that's the way to go. At that rate. Well, dude, if not, you're going to be forced into having unwarranted sex, and then you're going to get surgery.
Well, see, that's where they get you there. So they knew they were infecting people with syphilis. So they did this in kind of like a village and at the facility. They told you you have syphilis. Go up to the doctors and they'll give you the fucking injection for the cure of it.
Why the fuck were they testing syphilis?
And then when they go up to, because
syphilis bombs.
Well, no, it's because during the war, all the male army participants would be relieved by the sex act workers.
He said syphilis bombs.
Yeah, dropping jam-filled buns on them.
That's just fucking nasty.
Why would you say that?
Why would you say that?
So yeah, they were told that they would get the vaccine by going up to see the doctor, but there was no vaccine. They just snagged them and performed live surgery on them while they were live and awake. No anesthesia, no numbing. So even some children grew up inside the walls of the unit. They were born infected with syphilis. The children were tested in the same way as their parents were, with specific emphasis on determining how longer the infection periods affected and the effectiveness of the treatments.
Do they just hate kids, or?
Well, they hated a lot of Chinese people.
Easy targets.
It's pretty easy to make jokes about this, but it's some dark jokes.
Dude, Mason's fucking killing me over here.
Because
he's got them all tonight.
I guarantee you're not gonna like the next one.
Was I supposed to like any of this?
I mean, no, but this one's probably not any better.
Of
Yeah,
course.
get a read of it. Get a read.
You want to read this one?
No.
Yeah, I think he said that word enough.
Yeah, I've said that word quite a bit.
So
Actually,
their next test was rape and forced pregnancy. So female prisoners were forced into becoming pregnant for the use of experiments. The reason stated for the torture of this was to study the possibility of vertical transmission of diseases, particularly syphilis, which resulted in a large number of newborns in captivity. While male prisoners were often used in single studies so that the results of the experiment of them would not be clouded by other variables. So just use one man over and over again to impregnate women so they get the same results.
I guess the weird thing is like, so they'd pretty much try to keep the guys around for as long as possible. Well, I think that's really weird because like I'm pretty sure it's still the same way, but like especially China has like a huge population of male over female, so I feel like male subjects would definitely be an easier resource to come by. I mean, they're like what? Like, there's like what, one female to every 3 men or some shit like that.
Something like that. The situation for women living in Unit 731 was not less than hell, as a testimony of a training guard told about the horrific experiences that he had to see. One of the former researchers he was with told me that one day he had a human experiment scheduled, but there was still no time to kill. So he and another unit member took the keys to the cell and opened one that housed a Chinese woman. One of the unit members then raped her. The other member took the keys and opened another cell. There was another Chinese woman there who had been used in a Frostbite experiment. She had several fingers missing. Her bones were black with gangrene set in. He was about to rape her anyway. Then he saw that her sex organs was festering, with pus oozing out of the surface. He gave up the idea, left and locked the door, then later went on to his experimental work.
That sentence got me. The pus oozing?
Pus oozing out of the vagina.
David Parker Ray scarred the fuck out of me. That's the story.
That's all I gotta say.
This is fucking wicked. Like, it's just so fucking brutal.
Yeah. So just imagine that. Imagine what the scientists were doing to the Chinese women who already had like probably plenty of diseases.
So let me get this straight. They're filling these people with STDs and then trying to have sex with these people?
Pretty much. They weren't very smart. See, that's why I said like all scientific research kind of went whoop, out the window. And it just pretty much became a torture and some scientific research and rape and all sorts of stuff.
Greg is flabbergasted.
Well, yeah. On what
He's all
planet is that on what planet is that a good idea?
Apparently, the Japanese
Usually, you
soldiers,
see someone with an STD, and you're like, "Well, I cannot have sex with that person. That's for sure." You don't want to get it.
I mean, this person, this
Maybe they just don't give a fuck, dude.
I mean, this guy was about to rape a person who had her fingers missing, bones were black, gangrene set in, and also that she got fucking pus oozing out of her vagina.
Viewer discretion advised.
We'll wait for that.
Yeah, we'll wait for that. Dude.
Whoops.
What? Not my fault.
So then, one of the final and main experiments that Unit 731 did was the germ warfare. The main research of Unit 731 was in support of a larger mission, which by 1939 was to develop horrific weapons of mass destruction for the use against Chinese population, and presumably American and Soviet forces, if the time ever came. To this end, Unit 731 cycled through tens of thousands of prisoners and several facilities across Manchuria, which had been occupied by imperial forces for years. Inmates of these facilities were infected with several of the most lethal pathogens known to science, such as
Fuck that word, Connor.
It's pretty much like it's the scientific word for the bubonic plague. bubonic plague, pneumonic plague, typhus, which the Japanese would hope spread from prisoner to prisoner after being developed, and depopulated disputed areas. To breed most of these lethal strains possible, doctors monitored patients for the rapid onset of symptoms and quick progression. Prisoners who pulled through were shot, but those who got sickest fastest were bled to death on the mortuary table, table, and their blood was used to infect other prisoners, the sickest of whom would themselves bled to transfer the most funeral strain to yet another generation.
They're putting blood of other people in people's blood and other people.
Yep.
So they were just trying to cause mass fucking hysteria, huh?
Yeah, their main quest was just try to
destroy the world,
pretty much.
Make everybody sick as fuck.
At this time, before Japan really went into World War II, Japan was allied with the Nazi army. So, add both those fucking superpowers together, and what do you get? Someone wants to destroy the fucking whole planet, pretty much, and rule it.
Was Japan down with that whole genocide thing as well?
Yeah, they hated Chinese people.
So the Nazis were going after Jewish people while the Japanese people were going after the Chinese people?
Yep.
You don't really hear about this end of it very much. You more or less hear about Germany's side.
Yeah, I mean,
you hear about Japan doing Pearl Harbor and shit.
We'll talk about that later. One member of the Unit 731 later recalled that very sick and unresisting prisoners would be laid out on the slab so a line could be inserted into their carotid artery. When most of the blood had been siphoned off and the heart was too weak to pump anymore, the officers in leather boots climbed onto the table and jumped on the victim's chest with enough force to crush the ribcage, whereupon another droplet of blood would spurt into the container.
We're really milking out that blood.
They're trying to fold that motherfucker up like a tube of toothpaste.
Kind of went in depth there. Not just any type of boots, gentlemen. Fucking leather boots. Was there a reason that was in there?
That kind of went along with the other one.
The leather boots?
Oh, no. No. It was just oddly specific. I don't know.
Interesting.
We'll
take it.
Attention to detail.
So when the plague Bacillus had been bred to what was felt to be a significantly lethal caliber, the last generation of prisoners to be affected were exposed to a huge number of fleas. The bubonic plague, pretty much, is what the Y peptis is. Preferred vector of cat. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, the fleas were then packaged in dust and sealed inside of clay bomb castings. So, on October 4th of 1940, Japan's bombers deployed these casings, each loaded with about 30,000 fleas that had each sucked blood from the dying prisoners over the Chinese villages of Guizhou. Witnesses to the raid recalled a fine reddish dust settling on the surfaces all over town, followed by a rash of painful flea bites that infected nearly everyone.
They're using syphilis bombs and flea bombs.
It is also known that
flea bombs get rid of fleas.
Well, I don't think they had flea bombs back then. Especially not
this was a flea bomb.
Well, yeah.
Just a different
flea bomb full of fucking diseases.
It's a different type of flea bomb.
So it is also known that more than 2,000 civilians died of the plague following the attack. Another 1,000 or so died in the nearby Iwu after the plague was carried by the sick railway workers. Other attacks using anthrax killed approximately 6,000 more people in the area. In August of 1945, Hiroshima and your favorite word?
What, Nagasaki?
Nagasaki. Kind of like Kawasaki.
Nagasaki teriyaki.
Had both been bombed. The Soviet army had invaded and utterly annihilated the Japanese army, and the Emperor read his infamous surrender declaration over the radio. Unit 731 was officially disbanded. Its records were mostly burned, destroyed, and any useful information to the team had been managed to generate in the 13 years of research. Researchers mostly slipped back into civilian life and occupied Japan as nothing ever happened, many of the members becoming prominent members of university facilities. To this day, Japan has not apologized for, and China has not forgiven, the countless atrocities Japan forced visited upon China between 1931 and 1945. As the last witness to this history grows old and die, it's possible that they will never address it again. And that, my friend, is Unit 731.
So it says 13 years, and you said there are about 4,000 people probably killed there. Is that over 13 years?
Probably more than that, because when they did their germ testing, or their germ warfare, they killed about 10,000 people due to just fleas.
Well, that number jumped really quick. 4,000 to 14,000, like fucking that.
Well, wait till you hear how many people died from my topic.
Yeah, some kind of competition.
Oh, I'm gonna pull them out of the water. 14,000 is fucking peewee numbers.
You got baby numbers.
Well, yeah, but
have
you ever heard of Unit 731?
No.
You ever heard of Japan? Involvement in fucking World War II? Mason's got the easy one. At least I'm not talking about the Nazis this time. It's Mason talking about the Nazis.
At first, I thought you were questioning my.
You better hit me with some knowledge, Mason, because you know I'm very knowledgeable on Nazis.
Well, we got the T4 Euthanasia Program. So, what is the T4 Euthanasia Program? This is a way that the Nazi Germany killed sick people who can't be cured, the physically and mentally disabled, and the elderly people. So, if you're old, sick, and you just can't function, you're gonna die. Pretty much is what it is.
That's kind of like it's kind of like a more primitive style of thought. I think that's how some animals function out in nature. Like if you're wounded, and they'll just fucking leave you behind because they're not gonna die for you. Yeah, pretty much. That's still fucking awful though. I always have a soft spot in my heart for like physically and mentally disabled people.
Well, how did Adolf Hitler? He started the program in October 19...
Last time I heard me say I had a soft spot for fucking anything.
Well, at least you're not like Adolf Hitler.
Fair.
Started the program in October 1939 at the start of World War II. And they thought that the program stopped in 1941, but it continued until the Nazis were defeated in 1945. So it went on for years longer than people thought.
The Nazi experiments was also going on while Unit 731 was operating.
Hitler gave his personal physician the authority to kill people that were seen unsuited to live, like just because they were like disabled, so they were seen as not able.
Were people that were like just not fit to go to war, or just a certain quality of life, like that if you had quality of life that he just.
In Hitler's eyes, he found that, obviously Jews weren't to his liking. So if anybody wasn't up to Hitler's standards, Hitler's standards, he would just off with the head. If they weren't pure German or anything like Hitler wanted or to his standards, they just fucking murdered him or tested on him.
So Hitler gave Dr. Karl Brandt and Philip Bohler the order to expand the authority of physicians so they can determine if someone should receive a mercy killing for living a life unworthy of living. And this was just based on Brandt and Bohler's judgment. Like they decided who died.
What do you think he was aiming for there? Maybe to cut cost of like healthcare and
that, and he wanted like obviously Germany was a superpower back then, so he wanted only fit and fully functional soldiers. I mean, he took pretty much everyone from Germany. Those who didn't, well, you see what happened to them.
Weeding out the weak links.
Pretty much.
So
that's rugged as fuck.
It only took a few months for every physician to be working under this program. People were assigned to the program based on their economical productivity and were labeled as burdensome and useless eaters.
Useless people to society.
It said useless eaters. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I like I said, it goes back to the thing of like cutting down costs. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're burdensome, but like it's like the same
Well,
thing.
to Hitler, they were.
Well, fair, but like, yeah, I mean,
You can help the
more
economy.
mouths there are to feed, the more it costs.
So the program sent surveys to psychiatric institutions, hospitals, and homes in search of chronically ill people. Those who filled out a survey were not examined, and neither were their medical records. They were judged as fit to live based solely on the survey and how they answered it.
That's a test you don't want to fail.
So I know what you're thinking. How'd they kill the people? Well, the program originally killed people by starvation and lethal injection. They later chose to use poison gas as the main tool. Chemists provide the gas, and physicians watch people be poisoned in gas chambers disguised as showers. This was even before the Holocaust. When people were taken to the programs, Nazi staff would show up in white coats and look official to avoid suspicion. When victims were killed, the staff would inform the families of the death with letters, urns of the ashes, and fake death certificates signed by the physicians.
Why would the death certificate be? Well, I mean, I guess lying about the cause of death.
Yeah, to make it seem more legit.
Does that make it fake though? Then they are technically dead. It's not the way they died, but they are dead.
Well, they're trying to make it to where they. It seems like they died in a more humane way, not
because the family's gonna be wanting answers.
Not inhumane way. Like, yeah, your child died. Just fucking threw him in the gas chamber. They thought it was a shower.
Your kid couldn't fight in the war, so we killed him.
I mean, this is awful, but I mean, what the fuck were they gonna do? Like you said, they were
distraction.
You said they were like a superpower back then. Like, what the fuck were they gonna do about it? Even if they told them directly like that,
What are they gonna do? Push a wheelchair out in the fight?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Autobots, roll out!
Strap a bomb to him and send him downhill into the middle of the enemy lines.
Hold this grenade, son. You're doing a great honor for your country.
I'm not sure this war worked that way.
All right. Well, psychopaths, mentally disabled people, and other, quote, inferior people were to be isolated and killed. Mental institutions were ordered to withhold food and medical treatments. The economy was used to justify the killings. Money saved by killing those unworthy of living could be used for something better. Like what I saw was used as an example was wedding loans. Like people that just got married, they could have the money instead of these worthless people.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I'm sure they could use it
for with mental illness. We're getting married, bitch, and you're paying for it.
I'm sure they also use money for like war and stuff. But
it's kind of weird that you said psychopaths would kill. I feel like they'd be pretty good in fighting wars, unless they turn on you.
I say I don't feel like they wouldn't trust them.
Maybe give them a gun.
I don't know much about it.
Let them run their own solo unit.
I think don't you have to pass some kind of test showing that you're mentally stable enough to be in the military?
Well, nowadays you do, but I don't know about back then. I mean, back then you just got fucking drafted. Like they just pulled you off the street. Like if there was another world war to happen, we'd be right in the front line. True story. Well, I mean, we probably wouldn't get drafted due to how many people we have in reserves.
They don't draft only children, do they?
Well, I don't think they do.
Sorry, Mason.
Guess being the only child has their perks. I would still go.
I'm flat-footed.
No. I would still go.
Oh,
it just depends. Like if I really needed to, then yeah.
I can't lift the gun all the way.
Well, I'm just not going to fucking lay down. That's not going to happen. I'd rather go out and die than just lay down.
I don't think if we had another World War, like World War III, if that was to ever come, which I don't know, it might, never know. I don't know if we would actually be drafted due to how many people we have in reserves. Like we have a lot of people in military reserves, so I'm sure there'd be enough to fight probably. Plus with all of our allies, Well, if we have any allies anymore.
Well, let me tell you, some people were offered to be saved from the program, or at least temporarily. Like I'm sure it was like a false security. They were offered to be saved if they sent others to their death.
Well, ain't that a fucking little twister there? Like, hey, this doctor would like to see you now. But you're saying it like with your arm up here. The doctor want to see you now. And then, well, just by reading it, oh shit! I only got to the gas chamber part, but what's after the gas chamber part? Yeah, shit.
Okay, yeah. So gas chambers and ovens were used to kill and dispose of bodies, similar to how they did in concentration camps. Thousands could be killed and burned within hours.
Those places had to stink like a motherfucker. I'm telling you.
I don't know, like.
Sometimes I wonder if they were a cigarette and like burn my hair a little bit on the cigarette. I'm like, ugh, that's fucking putrid.
I wonder if they had a choice, like if they choose the path of dying. Do you want to be gas chamber? Or do you want to be burned alive?
I don't think they gave them a choice. They probably just chose the closest option.
I say usually, yeah. If someone's going to,
what if they were placing bets back then? They flip a coin.
He's not too far off, dude.
I'm sure they did some sick twisted shit. They'd be like, how long you think he's going to last in the gas chamber? $5 for 5 seconds.
I mean, did you hear what they called it? A vagina with syphilis?
I did. I wish I didn't.
Do you want to read again?
No, it's good. Let me tell you how many people died. So,
let's hear it again.
Well, it was called Jam-Filled Buns.
So, 2 years after the program began, it ended on August 24th, 1941, or so it seemed. And this is where I said it continued for...
You flirting with me, dude?
No, I'm trying to get comfortable.
Okay.
Where it continued for years after they thought they stopped it. I don't like when people interrupt me giving my information.
Welcome to my world.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm not going to stop. Or so it seemed. The killings went underground and continued during the war.
See, I told you Nazis like being underground.
It's in those tunnels. When the program was originally thought to have been stopped, over 70,000 people died in the program. All these killings came to an absolute stop in 1945 when the Nazis were defeated. With the killings above and below ground combined, the total number of lives lost are in the range of 200,000.
14,000.
I told you it was the PV numbers.
Japan was slacking, okay? They were slacking.
I don't know. This seems a bit different. I mean, they're just taking people out and killing them because they see them unfit to live. Where the fucking Japanese people were like hiding people away in bunkers and like you said, they'd use the same guy for like multiple experiments. And they're just like kind of hanging on to the people they got, and they're just going to do all the nasty, dirty shit that they can to them.
They give most of that research to the Nazis back too.
I got a little fun fact real quick before we
Is it a fun fact?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, in 1941, when the program was thought to have been stopped, this escalated the rise of the Holocaust. So them thinking that this program ended just boosted the Holocaust.
Yeah. Like I said before he started talking, I was like, they're unfit to Hitler's standings. Because, Hitler thought that if you're pure German and you're probably, or like perfect, you were just like, well, as Mason has it, the master race. So
blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah, so how do you feel about that one?
200,000 people. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less.
Of just mentally ill and
elderly.
Fuck those old people, I guess.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily as brutal as Japan's. I mean, definitely still very nasty, but
they weren't having stuff injected to them and cut open.
Yeah, I feel like the Nazis had more of a.
See, now if you take the people that were like aimed at with that, and then you put them at that Japanese unit, then you got something real fucked up.
The Nazis were killing just to kill. Japan was not that it makes it better, but they're doing tests and stuff. They were killing just to kill.
I'm just saying, you're just taking a bunch of like mentally unstable and mentally handicapped and elderly people. And could you imagine giving a 98-year-old lady like syphilis? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, see your face? It's fucking awful.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure about the age range of like the people the Japanese tested on, but I'm probably pretty sure that there was older people involved in there too. Infants, if they were testing infants, I'm sure they were testing on older people.
Any mentally unstable or mentally disabled.
Yeah, they wouldn't know what to do. They're already fucked up enough, and now they're just imagine the frostbite test on them. Half their limbs don't work anyways. I mean,
you're digging the fucking hole, dude. It's so.
Want me to keep going? I keep going.
Yes, I do actually.
I don't.
Weapon testing on them would be pretty easy. Throw a grenade, they think it's a ball.
Okay, even though you lost a shitload more people, I just can't.
Here, Billy, catch this.
Couldn't have in the first place.
No, I'm just seeing like some kind of like 100-year-old geriatric ass lady with like a fucking like construction hat on, and they got this fucking silver plate over their chest.
Up on a cross.
Up on a cross.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah, we might have left a little bit out there. Yeah, that would make it like.
Well, I try not to put all the information there because I want the listeners to kind of do their own research so they have.
They don't want to do their own research. That's why they came here.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm on a fucking watch list with all the shit I looked up on my computer.
A watch list.
Yeah, they probably think you're some psycho motherfucker.
It all started with that 9/11 conspiracy. I bet that put me on a watch list there. I guarantee that.
The whole time me and Connor were like talking before that, and we're like, better fucking watch our goddamn backs.
See some men in suit.
Yeah, men in black suits. We better get the fuck out of there.
So, I guess since we talked about, Japan's kind of war crimes and then the Nazis' war crimes, well, I mean, Nazis probably had the biggest war crime. They created mass genocide. Well, I guess you can technically count the U.S. having a lot of war crimes too. Probably the more not well-known one, you may not know it, you may know it, is the Manhattan Project.
I might know a thing or two about this.
Pretty much, I'll give you the whole summary, but the Manhattan Project pretty much lead up in Nagasaki. So, the Manhattan Project was the code name for the American-led effort to develop a functional atomic weapon during World War II. The controversial condition and the eventual use of the atomic bomb emerged some of the world's leading scientific minds, as well as the U.S. military. And most of the work is done in Los Alamos, New Mexico, not the borough of New York City, which it was originally named. Manhattan Project was started in response of fears of German scientists that had been working on a weapon using nuclear technology since the 1930s, and that Adolf Hitler was prepared to use it.
He's all over the place.
Huh?
Hitler's all over the place.
Oh, he had people in fucking shambles, man. They were ready. So, when the U.S. declares war, the agencies leading the Manhattan Project from former in 1939 by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, after the U.S. intelligence operative reported that the scientists working for Adolf Hitler had already been working on a nuclear weapon. At first, Roosevelt set up the Advisory Committee of Uranium, a team of scientists and military officials tasked with researching uranium's potential role as a weapon. Based on the committee's finding, the U.S. government started funding research by, I'm going to call him Rico.
Rico and Leo.
Yeah, Rico and Leo. Their last names, of course, can't be normal. At Columbia University, which was focused on radioactive isotope separation, which is also known as uranium enrichment, and nuclear chain reactions. The advisory committee on uranium's name was changed in 1940 to the National Defense, before finally being renamed the Office of Scientific Research and Development, or OSRD, in 1941 and adding Rico to the list of members. The same year following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt declared that the U.S. would enter World War II and ally with Great Britain, France, and Russia to fight against the Germans in Europe and the Japanese in the Pacific theater.
Oh, how times have changed.
Yep, we are not friends with Russia. We're still friends with Great Britain and France, though. They are still our allies, and Ukraine is obviously our allies now, too. If I think correctly, I don't think China likes us very much. I definitely know North Korea.
You're asking the wrong motherfucker.
Well,
Wherever Kim Jong-un is at.
yeah, North Korea.
North Korea? Yeah, they don't like us. South Korea likes us.
Yeah, what do they have?
But North Korea don't.
We got the wrong Korea.
And, well, I think nowadays, Japan might like us.
I don't think they ever really have had problems with us since.
I know China don't like us.
Since we put them in line.
Their military's fucking scary.
I mean, so is Russia's. Russians are some crazy motherfuckers.
I know.
They don't have tanks. They ride bears into battle.
That's fucking true. They fucking fight bears for a living out there, man.
Yeah, you go ahead and ride in a fucking bear. You ride in on a bear while I've got a tank. That ain't happening.
I mean, they got tanks too. But
I say your bear is gonna get blown to fucking nothing.
yeah, Russia and China are some big military forces, and hopefully we will never have to fight them.
I don't really like bears like that.
Well,
You
anyways,
don't want to ride a bear?
Fuck no. They're aggressive as shit.
Get a cub and raise it to not be aggressive. It's that easy.
I mean, Mike Tyson raised a tiger since it was a baby.
Do you know how bad of an example that is?
I mean, he's still alive. He didn't die or anything.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good example. Worked out for him. Why wouldn't it work out
I
for
mean,
you?
look at Mike Tyson now.
I mean, Mike Tyson's a super chill dude now. But back in the day, dude, I mean, that guy was just fucking off the wall.
Yeah, bend dude's ear off.
Well, that whole thing, so apparently Evander kept kind of like headbutting him when they get in the clinch, and the ref wasn't calling Evander on the headbutting. I'm sure you know in boxing, headbutting is not legal at all. And I've actually watched videos, and he was headbutting him in the clinch, and when the ref wasn't calling it, he just eventually got pissed off that he wasn't calling it. He's like, fuck this dude, and we'll rip his fucking ear off. And I mean, him and Evander have like met up and apologized. Well, he obviously apologized to Evander because headbutting's one thing, but ripping somebody's fucking ear off is complete another. In the sport of boxing, of all things,
That'd be cannibalism or no? Because he didn't really eat the ear.
you didn't need it.
He just-
He still tasted the flesh though.
He was batshit, dude. Like absolutely fucking. Nuts.
He was a good ass fighter, though.
Yeah, dude. Explosive, dude. And he's only like he was under 6 feet tall. He's fighting dudes that were like 6'4", 6'6".
And he has a pet tiger.
Yeah, I think he had two, right?
Oh, I just knew he had one. I think it was in a movie too.
Hangover.
I think, yeah, Hangover. Yep.
The dude has a tribal face tattoo.
Oh, you just don't fuck with him.
No. That's definitely a bad idea.
The way he talks is funny.
I'd never tell him that.
Well,
I'm sure he's heard it enough.
yeah. Well, anyways, back to the Manhattan Project here. So the Army Corps of Engineers joined the OSRD in 1942 with President Roosevelt approval, and the project officially morphed into the military with scientists serving in the supportive role. So the Manhattan Project begins. The OSRD formed the Manhattan Engineer District in 1942 and based it in New York City, borough of the same name. U.S. Army Colonel Leslie R. Groves was appointed to the lead project. Rico and Leo were still engaged in research on nuclear chain reactions, the process by which atoms separated and interacted, now at the University of Chicago, and successfully enriching uranium to produce uranium-235, which is known to be in atomic bombs.
When you first said their names, Leo's last name, I figured the S was silent. But I thought his last name was Lizard.
Yeah, that's what I thought too when I was looking. I was like, lizard, what the fuck is that? And I was like, slizzard.
Lizard. That's why I think this might be, one of those letters has to be silent.
Yeah, something has to be silent there. Well,
I can't believe it uses their last names instead of their first names.
Well, there's like tons of Joes and Leos in the world, probably. That's why they probably go by their last name.
Did you say Joe?
It's Rico.
Oh.
Well, I don't think his name wasn't actually Rico. It's just I didn't know how to pronounce his first name. Enrico. So I'm just going to call him Rico.
Yeah, Rico sounds better.
Anyways.
I'm sure that's what his friends all called him.
How much your parents have to hate to name you Enrico?
Yeah.
Fuck you, Enrico.
At least it's better than Leslie.
Or Mason. I'm just kidding.
Don't touch me.
Meanwhile,
I got a super English name, okay? My name is Gregory. Are you shitting me? Say it with your pinky up.
Gregory.
Yeah. Raise your pinky up.
Gregory.
I got a pretty normal name.
Connor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Irish, not bad. I was named after a movie, though, so.
I was waiting for you to say you were named after Conor McGregor, and I was
no.
Like, no, the fuck you weren't.
Nope. I was named after Connor McLeod off of Highlander.
Fair enough.
I was immortal in that movie.
I was named after my dead great uncle.
My name was going to be my dad's name, but his dad was a piece of shit. It was like, no, he's going to be a junior named after me. So when my mom was pregnant, my dad's like, isn't he going to be Mason Lee? That's how I got my name.
I feel that. Your middle name's Lee? What's your middle name?
For the longest time, I got our friend Colton to believe my middle name was Moses. Literally all through high school.
It's got a ring to it. Connor Moses Kane? I'll be goddamn.
No, it's Morris, though, is my middle name.
Morris.
What's your middle name?
Which one?
I got two.
Oh, you got two?
Yeah.
One of those weird ones.
I'll tell you one, and I'll tell you one.
All right.
Donald James.
Well, you told us backwards because James Donald.
No. Oh, it's Gregory Donald James.
Huh.
I'm one letter off from having the initials MILF.
Yeah, that's true.
You need to go change your name, and I need
to add another name.
Wyatt has two middle names.
Mason Isaac Lee.
That could work. Initial here? MILF.
God, that whole fucking four name shit is dumb as fuck. It's always confused me.
Wyatt's name is fucking long.
They're like, write your middle initial, and I'm like, which one do I fucking write? I have two. So I always just end up putting DJ. I don't know which one they want. They can have them both, dude. I don't give a fuck.
Well, I'm going to continue with the story here.
Please.
Yes, I'll allow it.
Meanwhile, scientists like Jen Seaborg, I'll talk about a last name. Seaborg.
Where the fuck do you find these names,
dude?
Man?
That's what they named them back in the day. I don't know. That's what the fucking the scientist's name was.
Where's fucking Bill?
Well, anyways,
Jack.
Glenn Seaborg was producing microscopic samples of pure plutonium, and the Canadian government and military officials were working on nuclear research at several sites in Canada. Well, on December 28th of 1942, President Roosevelt authorized the formation of the Manhattan Project to combine these various research efforts with a goal of weaponizing nuclear energy. Facilities were set up in remote locations in New Mexico, Tennessee, and Washington, as well as sites in Canada, for this research and relative atomic tests to be performed. So now we're into Robert. Yeah, talk about last name there. Go ahead and pronounce that last name.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
Are you fucking proud of me or what?
Is that German?
Yeah.
Oppenheimer.
It's fucking gotta be, right?
Yeah. Well, this is Robert Oppenheimer and Project Y.
What about Project X? Okay, like Pokemon.
You're not going to ask about maybe A or B or C?
I was making a Pokemon reference.
I thought you were talking about Project X, the movie.
I didn't know that was a movie.
I heard Ted Nugent didn't believe COVID-19 was real because he had never heard of COVID-17 or 18 or 16.
You know, it's funny that you brought that up because most of the time that have you ever looked at any of the little villages named in Antarctica?
No, last time I was there, I didn't really get to see them.
Well, anyways, a lot of viruses and
I was too busy running my fucking ass away from these giant spiders.
A lot. Yeah, you can find that in an episode that we did.
There's
am I supposed to shout us out here?
Yeah,
which episode?
Is this that part of the show?
Yeah, you're talking about giant spiders. You can listen to that story back in our Antarctic.
What episode number is that?
Fuck,
I don't know.
4 or 5, I believe. 5. It was 5. Well, anyways, let's get this motherfucker rolling. So, theoretical physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer was already working on the concept of nuclear fusion, along with Edward Teller and others, when he was named director of Los Alamos Laboratory in northern New Mexico in 1943. Los Alamos Laboratory, the creation of which is known as Project Y, was formally established on January 1st of 1943. The complex is where the first Manhattan Project bombs were built and tested. On July 16th of 1945, in the remote desert location near
Alamogordo,
New Mexico.
We've got to start fucking abbreviating some of this shit.
The first atomic bomb was successfully detonated, the Trinity test, creating the infamous mushroom cloud some 40,000 feet high and ushering the atomic age. So that bomb set off is now the symbol of the atomic bomb, the mushroom cloud. When they set that off, that was just a fucking symbol, like, boom, mushroom cloud. That's the atomic symbol right there, baby. Or nuclear, I guess, whatever. I think it was atomic symbol, because nuclear is a different one. So, scientists working under Oppenheimer had developed 2 distinct types of bombs, a uranium-based design called the Little Boy, and the plutonium-based weapon called the Fat Man. With both designs in the works at Los Alamos, they became an important part of U.S. strategy aimed at bringing an end to World War II.
Isn't there like a gun that shoots nukes in Fallout? It's called something like that.
It's been a long time since I played Fallout.
I don't think I've ever played Fallout.
That's a good game.
It's alright. Well, everything fucking gives you rads. Like, that's the only thing that annoys me in that game is like everything you do, the game fucking punishes you. Oh, you lost health, you need to drink some water? Sorry, you're gonna get some rads with that. Like, everything gives you radiation poisoning. It's such bullshit. Once you get past where the fucking environment won't kill you, the game is like easy from there. But until you get to that point, dude, it's fucking treacherous out there, I'm telling you.
Murky waters.
Well, here we get into the talk of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
I always want to say teriyaki right after it.
Meanwhile, the military leaders of the Manhattan Project had identified Hiroshima, Japan as an ideal target for the atomic bomb. Given its size and the fact that there were no known American prisoners of war in the area, a forceful demonstration of the technology developed in New Mexico was deemed necessary to encourage Japan to surrender. There we go with threatening. And we're threatening to fucking blow some shit up now.
I think it might have been more than a threat.
Well, with no surrender agreement in place, on August 6th of 1945, the Inalia?
Dude, fuck these words, man.
Anyways, the gay bomber plane dropped the as yet untested Little Boy bomb 1,900 feet above Hiroshima, causing unprecedented destruction and death over the area of 5 square miles.
I fucking told you.
Well,
I told you it was more than this.
Well, buddy, 3 days later was still no surrender declared on August 9th. The Fat Man bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, the site of a torpedo building plant, destroyed more than 3 square miles of the city. The 2 bombs combined killed more than 100,000 people and leveled 2 Japanese cities to the ground. The Japanese informed Washington, which, following Roosevelt's death, was under a new leadership, President Harry Truman, of the intention to surrender on August 10th and formally surrendered on August 14th of 1945. So after we just bombed the shit out of Japan because they wouldn't surrender, well,
Finally surrender.
They finally surrendered. They learned the lesson.
I fucking say so, yeah.
And this was all following the attack on Pearl Harbor, which we know.
What?
You flirting with me too?
I didn't touch you.
Oh.
I think you touched your shoe or something.
I think it was the table.
Your shoe on my carpet.
I think your table wants to have sex with me.
I don't know.
Well, to finish this last little section here, the legacy of the Manhattan Project. With the development of weapon designed to bring about to the end of World War II as it started mission, it's easy to think that the story of the Manhattan Project ends on August of 1945. However, that's far from the case. Following the end of the war, the United States formed the Atomic Energy Commission to oversee research efforts designed to apply the technology developed under the Manhattan Project to other fields. Ultimately, in 1964, then President Lyndon B. Johnson put an end to the U.S. government's effective monopoly over nuclear energy by allowing for private ownership over nuclear materials. The nuclear fusion technology preferred by the Manhattan Project engineers has since become the basis of development of nuclear reactors for power generators, and well as other inventions including medical imaging systems, MRI machines, and radiation therapies of various forms of cancer. And that, my friends, is Manhattan Project and some of the war crimes created during World War II.
Everybody was just doing evil shit.
I think the U.S. probably had a less evil intention when they were testing with nuclear stuff.
Yeah,
unlike
sure.
They were just trying to stop a war.
Yeah, they're trying to stop a war, and Japan and the Nazis are trying to take over the world.
It was always weird with Hiroshima and Nagasaki because, like, I get it. They bombed Pearl Harbor, and that was like kind of like a big deal on why they did this. But when Japan did it, they hit a military base, and then when the U.S. did it, I mean they hit two civilian cities. It almost comes off as like pretty much terrorist attack, like to me. What it kind of like reminds me of, I would say, probably be our last one, 9/11. That was like one of the biggest things I could think of where another group targeted just U.S. citizens. I mean, granted they were going after military things as well, but I mean they ended up hitting more fucking civilians than anything. So I mean, I kind of see it in the same light, which I knew.
Well, I mean, you gotta think that
they were trying to get Japan to stop fucking with them.
Well,
I mean, it did the trick, but
they created the Manhattan Project after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, but it was a military base, and like my whole thing is like military versus civilian, taking military lives versus civilian lives. Which I mean, I see that,
but they killed U.S. civilians.
Yeah,
who were in the Army.
That's true.
Or in the Navy, I guess, because Pearl Harbor was a Navy base. So,
but when you're in the military, are you still deemed like I mean, I know you're deemed a citizen, but just a walking civilian. Like none of us are like have ever.
I mean,
had
they're not.
Kind of
I mean, probably not for them. They're not like military people. Probably ain't considered civilians until after their military career.
Yeah.
But still, they killed American lives. But when the Fat Boy was dropped, it was over a.
I guess there's just a common understanding in war of we have people that we're sending out to fight. You have people that you're sending out to fight. Like the idea is not to take it beyond that, beyond the people that you send to fight.
I will say when they dropped the little boy on Hiroshima, I don't believe that there was like a Japanese military base there. But when they dropped the Fat Boy, it was on a torpedo, torpedo building plant.
So they dropped the Fat Man on Nagasaki?
Yeah. That was probably more aimed toward military, the submarine stuff with building torpedoes.
Which definitely makes more sense from a war standpoint because the more you can hit the military, the less military intelligence they're most likely going to have.
And honestly, I think ever since we bombed the shit out of Japan, I don't think Japan's fucked with us.
Neither do I. I mean, most Americans are very fond of Japan these days.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think we're good friends with Japan now after we bombed the shit out of them.
because they do some really cool shit. Like overall,
So,
my favorite video games are Japanese.
You just got to kill a couple people to make them cool with you.
yeah, pretty much.
That's what we learned.
So out of these,
couple?
Give or take.
yeah. So out of these three, in the category of war crimes, which one would you not like to be a part of?
What was yours?
Fucking all of them?
173 or whatever.
731.
731.
What do you mean as like be a part of? Like I'm doing the shit or I'm having it done to me?
Let's take it as both standpoints. Which one would you like to be a part of, and which one would you not like to be a part of?
I feel like I'd rather get bombed because it's just boom, done and over. I do not want to be frozen.
I definitely would
ripped
rather
apart.
be on the American side on all of this.
Oh, is that an option?
Yeah.
I want to be on the American side.
The thing is, like I'm with Mason. Like nuclear bomb. I don't imagine it was all fast. I don't, but I don't know.
It seems like the quickest.
I don't think. Well, we just bombed Japan. They only bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
So like when we started making the nuclear weapons, like I don't think we were really affected. I mean, obviously, like if you were working on it, you were probably exposed to some radiation. I would have to assume. So I mean, I'm sure you got some kind of illness or cancer. Or
I
something
have
like
a weird fascination with airplanes, though. That's another reason I'm going with that. Fighter planes had to drop those bombs, dude.
Yeah,
Right?
they were called the gay bomber.
I don't know if I'd want to be in that one. I feel like
I think that's what they're
all
called.
my friends would crack jokes on me.
Enola gay bomber plane.
See, I'd almost go with, like, if I was going to be killed, I'd almost damn near want it to be by the Germans. Dude, you can't guarantee death from explosion. I know some of those people had, like, super bad fucking radiation and all that, and not all of them died, but, like, it disfigured people. It fucked them up bad. If it didn't kill you, you were definitely wishing you were dead. Damn near saying the Nazis, man. Like Mason said, you said it started with lethal injection.
And starvation. I don't know how much.
Fuck. I don't want to starve to death.
I don't know which one was favored more than the other.
Well, yeah, I mean, shit, dude. I'd rather get blown up, to be honest with you. Quick and easy. I mean,
So none of us are taking that Japan route.
No, I don't want to get tortured.
hell no,
sadistic
I
as fuck.
I don't want to get hit with a Syphilis bomb
Yeah, yeah.
or fucking ticks.
Please.
Oh
my god.
I don't
Fill
want
a
to get.
fucking bomb with ticks? Are you nuts?
I don't
Holy
really.
shit.
I don't feel like getting shot at, blown up. I don't feel like getting frozen.
And then whacked with a stick.
Whacked with a stick.
They're mean as fuck.
I don't want to be in some cell with some fucking lady with pus oozing out of her vagina. I don't be anywhere near that shit.
You always find the nastiest shit.
Would you like to be in a fucking cell with someone who they classified as fucking... Where the fuck is
I
that?
wouldn't want to be in a cell with someone with syphilis.
Yeah.
Let alone all the other
You want to be in a
shit
cell
going
with
on.
some chick labeled as having jam-filled buns?
Somebody write this down.
No.
We're going to need this again.
What,
Jam-filled-
jam-filled buns?
Yeah, jam-filled buns? Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Go around people. You got some
What
jam-filled
color's
buns?
jam?
Are you trying to make me vomit? Is that what you're doing? Cut that shit
Bet
out.
you never eating honey buns again.
Oh, I'll fucking eat honey bun.
Well, now you're not thinking jam-filled buns.
No, I'll
Fucking
never eat
those
hot dog buns
jelly-filled
again.
donuts? Yeah. Yeah, put that in your mind now.
Well, I normally don't eat jam donuts anyways.
Some fucking...
I'm kind of stupid, so I'll probably forget this anyways. At least these words. I'm going to try to forget jam-filled buns. That's fucking nasty. I might go home and say that just for the fuck of it.
Yeah, just walk up to a man and be like, hey, you know what jam-filled buns
I'm
are?
going to walk up to my mom and say that.
Well, it's a girl who has
You
syphilis in
ever
her
had
vagina.
jam-filled buns?
Oh, dude, I hope she'd think it was like a fucking donut. Yeah, man, I love those jam-filled buns. You nasty motherfucker.
Well, I think that concludes episode 8.
That it?
Yeah.
What a roller coaster.
Hope you guys enjoyed learning some stuff.
I thought this one took a really interesting turn. To be honest.
Honestly,
because it started off so fucking bad, and then you said it was going to get worse, and it progressively got better, and then we go back to the top, and we're like, that's fucked. And compared to everything else that happened, that's fucked.
maybe I should have swapped it around to where I ended on a good one.
Yeah.
I feel like what the U.S. did was more humane than what Japan did.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference from bombing to fucking torturing people.
What else for science?
And dude, there's just no fucking there's no good way that they would send you out. You'd either be packed full of fucking diseases, or you'd be frozen to death and beaten with a fucking stick.
Weapon tested.
Weapon test. Get your buns filled with jelly.
Unless you were one of those lucky motherfuckers with the hats and the fucking metal chest plate.
Honestly, I read about bastards. That. I read about that. I was like, God damn, dude, that. I mean, being that close to a fucking bomb. I mean,
that ain't gonna do shit.
Was it a helmet or was it like a face? Like did they cover their face or just their head? Because I feel like something's gonna fuck up their face.
You know what's even?
Well, it was like a helmet with like all those blast shields in the face, and it was like literally just like a metal plate, like an armored plate, for like chest plating, tied to a string around their neck, placed over the chest.
They're fucking dead.
And
they're set up at 5 meters, 10 meters, so on and on.
You get a gust of wind, that thing's gonna go to the side, and then you're gonna get stabbed right to the gut.
I mean,
being 5 meters away from a fucking bomb, that's
that definitely Japan back in the day were making the Nazis sound kind of generous.
Yeah. Well, until what Mason read, and then the Holocaust happened.
I mean,
I guess still, even though the Holocaust happened, at least they didn't torture the fucking people.
Yeah. I mean,
they just made them work a lot, starved them, then gassed them.
I mean, but with Mason's thing, when he said, don't get me wrong, starving to death would be fucking miserable. But I think I'd rather starve to death than have my arm frozen solid and then a motherfucker take a cane and whack me with it. Just kill me, you fucking idiot.
You know how to pick up a Jewish girl?
I know this. Let me answer it.
Answer it.
Does pain and broom.
Yep.
What if you want a number?
Scan her wrist. Or look at her wrist. They had barcodes back then, but yeah, look at her wrist.
When you said that's back up when we were talking about that fucking LJ tattoo on the back of his neck. I haven't.
Do you know they used babies as clay pigeons back in World War II?
Say that again.
You know what clay pigeons are?
Fuck no.
People.
So it shoots like a little clay disc in the air. And normally shoot them out of the sky with a shotgun. Well, they use Jewish babies.
So basically, it's like that thing that I sent you the other day. That meme.
Yeah. Pretty much. So they just took a baby and just pull, and then just launched the baby in the air and just pow, out of the sky.
You didn't know that?
It was in a book.
It was in a book.
Yeah.
You know, Oprah did an interview with a Holocaust survivor.
I think it was that person that wrote the book.
I think it was.
No, this is all new to me.
It was a good book.
Yeah. One of the books I actually read in school.
Yeah, this is my first time hearing about this of my 45 years on Earth.
Yeah, they used to make you read in high school.
Yeah, you talking about the Diary of Anne Frank? We all had to read that.
No, it wasn't that one.
I don't remember what it was called.
Not Anne Frank. I don't give a shit about
it. Wasn't Boy in Striped Pajamas, was it?
No, it wasn't the Boy in Striped Pajamas either.
What was it called?
What was with that little period in school where they're like, okay, time to learn about all the shit that like you learn about the people who've had just terrible shit happen to them. They're like, oh, let's go ahead and learn about Anne Frank real quick. And while we're at it, we're going to talk about Ryan White. And it's like, why are you picking all these people that have these super depressing stories and throwing them on us all at once? Shouldn't you break this fucking shit up?
You got to get it all the way all at once. Figure it out. Ellie something? Ellie Weisel?
You guys are on your phones?
Well, we're trying to find the fucking book.
What's this book called?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
How do you what did you just put in there? Jewish book?
What's this called? There's a lot of books.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I definitely think you guys hallucinated this shit.
No, it was real. Promise.
Yeah.
What was it? It was night, right?
Something with night.
It was night, I think, because that looks familiar.
Like NIGHT or
Yeah,
KNIGHT?
NIGHT. I think it was night. So that's my final answer.
What is this? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Night is a 1960 memoir by Elie Wiesel based on his Holocaust experience with his father in Nazi Germany.
Nah, it was a fucking girl that wrote it.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, until we know an actual answer.
Oh, it literally was called Night. That's what it was.
Yes, by Elie Wiesel.
Yeah.
Because I remember them walking out because they're at the Holocaust or whatever.
Yeah,
Auschwitz
that's
there.
what it was called, Night.
Yeah, it's called Night.
Yeah, anyways.
Informational book.
Well, Greg, how about you just take us out of the void of this fucking tragedy here again?
You know, I can go ahead and I can do that.
Hey, next week we do got cryptids, by the way.
Next week for sure.
Next week for fucking sure.
For sure, I won't change it.
For sure.
I'm sorry for anyone who had their hopes up on listening to cryptids today.
That's too damn bad.
You get them next week.
I got them next week. Don't worry.
All right. Thanks for stopping in. Stop by the social medias. Like, follow, subscribe. Do all that good shit.
Share.
And share. Yeah. Share. By all means, fucking share. But yeah, come back next week and hear us talk some crazy shit about cryptids. Peace out, people.